almost here. I thought I would do a rabbit inspired cake decorating tutorial for you this week. So in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this rabbit cake. Now this is a perfect cake for Easter, or if you wanted to create a birthday cake for somebody who likes rabbits, or just fun cakes. So let's get started. Okay, so in order to make our bunny cake, so the first thing that I've got are my cakes. So I've just baked some vanilla sponge cakes, and these ones are about 1 inch in height. So in total, I've got 5 of those. And I've also got this really pretty pink buttercream icing. I'll put a link in the description below for the recipe. I've also got a 10-inch drum board, and I've also got all my tools for covering my cake. So I've got some white icing here, also some light pink, some dark pink, some black, and also I've got some modeling paste, or if you've got gum paste. Now for the ears, I've actually created these templates. So we've got the outer part of the ear and the inner part of the ear. Now I'll put a link in the description below where you can download the template for these so that you can cut these out and use that yourself. I've also got some wooden skewers which we're going to use to secure the ears. Then got 6 short lengths of wire. Now this wire has been covered in paper, and we're going to use those for the rabbit's whiskers. And I've also got these flower cutters and this flower veiner which we'll use when we come to decorate the cake. Okay, so the first thing that I'm actually going to do is fill my cake with buttercream and start to stack this cake. Now I do have another video on my channel which shows in more detail how I fill and cover my cakes, so I will put a link in the description below. So I'm just going to use my spirit level and just check that the cake is sitting flat, and once I've filled all those layers, I'm just going to crumb coat the cake to start with. So once we put that first layer of crumb coat on there, I'm just going to pop this cake into the fridge. Okay, so now my cake has been in the fridge for about 20 minutes and that crumb coat has set slightly solid. I'm just going to put another thin layer of buttercream on there. Okay, so once you're happy with how that next layer of buttercream is looking, I'm going to pop this back in the fridge for about 10 minutes just before we cover it in our fondant. Okay, so now I've taken the cake out of the fridge. All I'm going to do just to get this ready in order to cover it with the fondant is just put a really thin layer of buttercream just around that top edge and on the sides, just to make sure that that fondant is going to stick. Okay, so I'm just going to dust that work surface with some corn flour and just start rolling out my white icing. And then just going to drape that icing over the top, making sure that I smooth down that top and the sides. I'm then just going to pull the icing away, and using upward strokes, just push that icing onto the cake. I'm just going to go around the cake with my pizza cutter and just trim off any excess. I'm then just going to use my smoothing paddles just to go around the outside of the cake and make sure it is completely smooth. I'm also just going to use a small pin, and if there are any air bubbles in that icing, just push those out. I'm then just going to come in with my Flexi Smoothers from the Squires range and just finish off those edges. Okay, so once you're completely happy with how those edges look, I'm going to prepare my board and then transfer the cake over. Now this is just a 10-inch drum board. I'm just going to use some white icing, dust my work surface with some corn flour, and just roll that out until it's wide enough to fit over the board. I'm just going to take a small amount of cold water and just brush some water over the top and just lay that flat over the board. Using one of my smoothers, I'm just going to then roll that over the top. I'm just going to cut around the edge just to trim that off. I've then just got a length of white ribbon which I'm just going to wrap around the edge of that board, and just using some double-sided sellotape, just stick that down. Okay, so now I've got my cake added to my board. What I'm gonna do is start building up the rabbit's features. So I've just got some white icing here and some light pink. So I'm gonna start by making his nose and his cheeks. So what I'm gonna do is just take 2 balls of this icing and roll those into matching balls so that they're the same size. And I'm just gonna push the palm of my hand onto those to flatten those slightly. So there we have the first 2 balls. Now all I'm gonna do is just place those together for a minute and just push with my fingers just to make a flat part on the top, and this is what his nose is going to sit into. Now to make his nose, I'm just going to roll a ball of the pink icing, slightly smaller than the 2 that we have here, and I'm just going to flatten this one between my fingers. So all we're doing is creating a kind of triangle shape, and what we want is for that to sit between 2 white balls. Now once I'm completely happy with how they are looking, we're just going to add those on. So I'm just going to take a paintbrush and a small amount of edible glue, and first of all, starting with his nose, I'm just going to put a bit of edible glue onto the back of there, and then in the center of the cake I'm just going to push that on, and they're going to do exactly the same these. Okay, so once his nose has been added on, all I'm going to do is take a very small amount of the white icing and just roll that into a small ball in the palm of my hand and flatten that out. And then just going to take a very small amount of the edible glue and just put it on the corner of his nose and add that on. So we've got a little light spot. And then going to create his eyes. So I've got some black icing here, and all I'm going to do, roll that out into a thin sausage shape. And then once I've got it quite thin, I'm just going to cut off 2 strips which are about 2 inches in length. On one side of that, just soften that so you've got a rounded edge, and on the other I'm just going to work that into a point, and I'm going to do the same with both of those. So between the space that we have left and the top of the cake, all I'm going to do is just put a small amount of edible glue just onto the back of that eye, and then just going to place the eye on. And what I want to do is just put it in a point there, and then swing that around and have a nice flicker at the end, and just push that on so that it's stuck. And I'm then going to make the exact same shape on the other side. Okay, so now we've got the eye shape on there. What I want to do is create some more eyelashes at the edge. So I'm just going to take short pieces. So these are about 1 centimeter. I'm then going to take those and create the same points at one side. So leave one end flat and create that point. And then all I'm going to do is just take some more edible glue, and just on the end here, I want to create a flip. And just push those eyelashes. So for the other side, I'm going to do exactly the same. On the eyelash on the other side, just pop that on and create that little curve. Now you might just want to use a modeling tool just to push that into position. So there we've got the rabbit's eyes with the eyelashes added. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to work on are the rabbit's ears. So I've just got some white gum paste or modeling paste here, and the reason I've chosen this is just so it sets a little bit firmer, just because we want the ears to stand up. I've then got the 2 templates that I've made, this one for the outer ear, which we're going to do in white, and this one for inside the ear, which we're going to do in a light pink icing. Now I've put a link in the description below where you can download the template for these so you can print them out. So all I'm going to do is just roll out this gum paste. Now I want this quite thick, so I want to make it a thickness of about 5 millimeters. Okay, so once that's rolled out quite thick, I'm going to lay on my first template, which is the larger one, and with my craft knife I'm just going to cut that out. Now I'm going to cut 2 of these shapes out. Now I'm just going to bring in my blue foam mat, just so you can see them a little bit easier. Now all I'm going to do is just run my finger down the edges of those just to make sure they're nice and smooth. I'm then going to attach my skewers. Now what I want to do is make sure that when I cut the inside of the ears out, the skewers are not going to come out of the end. So I'm going to bring them up about 3 inches, and that will leave a nice 3 to 4 inches at the bottom here so that we can use that to push into the cake. Push that skewer in until it's flush with the ear. Now we don't want it going through the other side of the ear, so I'm just going to take a small amount of edible glue, just paint that on and push that into place. Now I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one. Now I'm just going to put those to one side just until we make the inside of the ear. Now for this I'm just going to roll out some light pink icing. So this one doesn't have to be as thick, so I'm just going to roll it out until it's a few millimeters in thickness. I'm then going to take the smaller piece of the templates and again cut 2 of those out. I'm then just going to bring back in the larger parts of my ears and just cover those sticks with some edible glue. Just lay those on the ears, making sure that they're completely stuck down. And whilst the white part of the ears is quite soft, all I'm going to do on one of the ears is just turn over the top. Now I'm just going to put those to one side just to allow the gum paste to set slightly so that we're able to poke those into the cake. So once they've been made, what I'm going to do is just add some edible glue just on to the bottom. So from the center of the cake, I'm just going to work my way up, and I'm just going to put a tiny point so I know where the center of the cake is. I'm then just going to take the first of the ears and just push that into the cake, and I'm going to do exactly the same with the second one. So working about the same distance from the center. I'm then going to create a small piece of hair at the top. So I'm going to take some more of that white icing and just get some small balls of that, and I'm just going to work that in my hand. So what I want to do is create a long piece of icing or fondant that's thicker at one end and just goes to a point, and I'm going to create a few of those, and they don't have to be exactly the same size. And just using this pointy tool, all I'm going to do is just put some lines down those, and I'm just going to take these and working from just inside the ear, I'm going to poke that through. That's going to look like a fringe, and then I'm just going to place the other one on top and just bring that through. And once you're happy with how they're looking, you can just push those down at the back just so that they are stuck onto the cake. Now you could just leave the top of the head like this. I just want to add a small little flower in here. So what I've got is this large 5-leaf petal cutter, and I've also got this veiner tool. So all I'm going to do is I've got some more ice in here, which is just a slightly darker shade to the one that we used on the nose, and I'm just going to roll that out and then just going to cut one of my flowers out. Now I'm just going to pop that in, push this over, and this just creates a really pretty flower shape. I've got some small round hundreds and thousands, so I'm just going to pop a small amount of edible glue into the center and just drop some of those inside, and then just going to pop a little bit of edible glue, and I'm just going to pop that in there. I'm going to add some paws to the front, so I'm just going to take quite a large ball of icing, and I'm just going to roll that and then just going to push that down slightly, just taper the back in a little bit. I'm then going to take this modeling tool, and what I want to do is just split the front into 3 pieces. So I'm just going to push this tool into there, and once you've got 2, I'm just going to pop a small amount of edible glue onto the back of those, and then I'm just going to stick them to the front just on the side, so it looks like his 2 little paws are coming up. And once you're happy with the position of those, I'm gonna work on the back of the cake. Now all I wanna do is create a little tail. So I'm gonna turn the cake around, and what I want is quite a large ball of icing that is just gonna sit on the back. Now you could just put it on like that, but I wanna make it look a little bit more like fur. So this is an easy way to create a texture. So I've just got some tin foil here that I'm gonna scrunch up slightly, and then just holding the ball in my hand, I'm just gonna really push that foil into the icing. I'm then just gonna pop a small amount of edible glue just onto the back of that, and I'm just gonna stick that to the back of the cake. Okay, so once we've got his tail added, the last thing that I'm gonna do is add some whiskers. So I've got these wires and they're just covered with a white paper. So I've got 6 of those and I've cut them to a length of about 2 inches. So I'm just gonna pop the end of that into some edible glue. On the white part on the front of his face, I'm just gonna put one in the center. So just push that in, and then just push one at an angle above it, one below also. And I'm gonna do the exact same to the other side. So there we have the finished bunny cake. I really hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial. If you have, then don't forget to give this video a like. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then please click subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, and this will notify you every time a new video is put up. Also, don't forget to check me out on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll put a link to my blog below. Bye!